Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make these bullet shell bullet necklaces. What you're going to need for this is a bullet shell. Any size will work, and maybe not 22s, but you can make these bigger or smaller. You're going to need a piece of bar stock, which needs to be slightly larger than your shell so it does not go inside. We'll get back to that in a minute. That's very important. And you're going to need a drill or a drill press. I'm using my drill press. It's a variable speed. It makes it a lot easier to work on these things. But the way that these work is you have your shell and you have your altered metal rod, and it slots in there like so, and it becomes this. Now this one will not come apart. This one I made especially because it does come apart to demonstrate how you make these. What you're going to want to do is you take your rod, shave it down enough so that it will slot in here almost all the way, and then make it fan out at the end a bit, and then you can put it in there so it almost reaches the bottom, and then tap it with a hammer, and it, for all intents and purposes, it becomes one solid piece of metal, and it won't be coming apart. Especially after you shine this up, you can't get a grip on that. You're not going to be able to pull it apart. First things first, you're going to need to take your metal rod and your bullet shell, and you're going to need to measure how far into the shell the rod needs to slide. You want it to fit all the way in there, so it'll be a nice fit. Now, remember that the back is a solid piece of brass, so it's not going to fit all the way in there. But you need to mark that so that you can shave this section down the appropriate amount so that it'll slot with a tight fit inside of the casing and it won't come back out. Okay, after you have your piece marked in the appropriate distance, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but there's a mark there, you're going to want to shave it down and keep checking the fit. Okay, now that you've got your end shaved down a bit on your bullet, you're going to attach the two. Now it should be a pretty snug fit, hopefully just a little bit of room on the end. And then we're going to put it on a wooden surface and give it a couple of relatively gentle taps with a hammer. See, it is now seated. Now that it is fully, now your next step is going to be to actually drill through this, because it is a lot easier to drill through before you take it off of the bar than it is after. I learned that the hard way. Okay, as you can see by this slightly dubious setup, I have a quick grip holding the bar, which is connected to the shell, and the drill press is set up so that it will cut through the shell and the bar stock at the same time, leaving a hole through it. I actually do not know what size bit this is. I just have a massive jumble of them, and I grabbed the one that looked about right for this shell and for what I wanted to do. I have the drill press set to 680 RPMs, which is about a good cutting speed I found for brass and steel. It's not fast enough to burn out your bits really, and it's not slow enough to grab this thing and rip it everywhere, which gets messy really quickly. So I'm going to cut through it now. Let's see how that goes. Okay. As you can see here, it has cut cleanly through, and while it is slightly off-center, that will be sorted out later. But there's also like this sprue, or whatever you want to call it. So I am going to switch it to a larger bit, and then I'm going to be able to tap either side of this and make a nice clean cut. Okay, so I have changed the bit out. I'm leaving it at the same speed, and I'm now going to remove these bits. You just take it and you just tap it a little bit, and it should go smoothly. As you can see, everything went according to plan. It has flared out the holes a bit, and everything is now nice and smooth. So, next step, cutting. Okay, the next step, as I said, is cutting this off. Now, you can cut it off with a hacksaw, sawzall, bandsaw. Really any type of like metal cutting saw will work, but my preferred method is bolt cutters, because it cuts through this really quickly, and I mean it leaves a relatively clean edge. So you just put it in there after you've determined how much size you want, and you just clamp it. So now I get to go and find it. Okay, now that you have your bullet shell, you're going to want to put it in like this to sharpen the point and form it into a, well, so it looks like a bullet. However, if you want to clean this up, you might be able to see here that there is gunk on this one. You put it in upside down. Try and even it out best you can so it's not all super wobbly. Yeah, that's pretty good. A little tightening. And take a rag, and if you can find it, Brasso. Just put a little bit on the rag. Rub it on there. And let this spin up. Now, I currently have it set for, what do I have it set for? Its maximum speed, which is 3,150 RPMs. But anyway, to start by just cleaning this off. Now it has shined it up a little bit, but this one's actually got a lot of discoloration. So I'm going to use some super high grit sandpaper to take off just the outer layer. Now if you look here, you'll notice that it's a lot shinier. And once again, if I hit it with the Brasso, that should buff out just those remaining couple scratches from the sandpaper and make this super shiny. So, put the Brasso on there and turn it on. Okay, now that it is really shiny and looking really nice, what you're going to do is, if I remember where I put the key, take it down and turn it around. Now, be sure to not over tighten this. If you do, you will dent the sides of the bulletin and it'll have grooves in there for the rest of forever. I did that on my first one and I was fairly upset by it. Now, what you're going to want to do with this is have a selection of files nearby, and you're going to want to have it so that as it spins, it cuts into the file and you form out a bullet with the cutting motion. It's that simple. You just keep going, and it'll wear out into a bullet. Now you're going to want several different types of files to help with different things. I've got, this one's actually different sides, which is nice, and I've got a whole selection more of them over here. But let's get started. Now just to check in, you can see how the edge is already, it's forming down, it's getting much smoother now. It was wider at the top than at the bottom, so I am going to have to shape all of that off. But I will check in with you once again, once that's all shaped off, and once I'm ready to start giving it an actual bullet shape. Okay, so as you can see, it is now one solid shape, and it has become pretty darn smooth. I did notice that the light was really reflecting off, so I guess I'm going to have to leave that off for now. But next step is you're going to want to take your file and really rock it. Actually, I will use a smaller one for this. And rock it back and forth along here. And that's going to shape the edges. Now, if you use a bigger file like this one, that gets the whole side pretty darn smooth. And then you can rock it in. I mean, you don't need to use a smaller one. It's just easier for me to use a smaller one. And you're going to just keep shaving everything down until you get to what you feel it should look like. Really. Now, as you can see, the bullet is really starting to take shape. And I'm thinking I'm only going to trim off a little bit right around here, make it slightly more pointed, and then I'm going to buff it up, which is the next step in the process. Okay, so I'm happy with that shape. It looks like a bullet to me. And next up, we're going to take layers of sandpaper. Okay, now we've got our 500 grit, actually this is 200 grit sandpaper, and we're going to take it and you're going to put it behind it and rock it around until you stop seeing an improvement, and then you need to go up to the next level of sandpaper. Okay, that looks pretty shiny. That's about as shiny as we're going to actually be able to get it with this grit sandpaper. So now it is time to move up to the 2000 grit sandpaper. Okay, the next step in shining this up is to move to the really high grit. I believe this is a 2000, it says 400, but it's way higher than that. 2000 grit sandpaper. Now, same as with the other one, you're just going to want to put it behind there and move it back and forth, gently shining this. Okay, now that has been shined up by the high grit sandpaper, next step is Barasso. You're going to take some of this, put it on your paper towel, and then you are going to rub it into the bullet and onto the casing. Now you're going to want to keep this on the backing when you turn it on, or else it will spray everywhere. So, go! Now that this is ultra shiny, I can actually see my reflection in it. I don't know if you can see that, but it's really shiny now. It is done. You just take it out, and you can use it as a keychain, necklace, whatever you want it. This is it. Finished product. Now this is the bullet we just made. this is a key ring. I like to use these because I think when you put them on there, it makes the boat look cooler. So you can get these just about anywhere. I'm not even sure you can actually buy these. They just sort of come on everything. Run a chain through it. Hook it up. And your necklace is done. And if I do say so myself, I think that looks pretty darn nice. Okay, well, have a great day. See you next time.